Oh,
Go.
we're trying to align the mount surface for the bell housing on the clutch cover with the crankshaft, and we followed most of Tom Endy's suggestions. We've got two actual standard gaskets underneath these 4 bolts right here. These are gaskets supplied normally through the catalogs. And we've run through several indicator
Runs.
runs, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're checking, we're, just like Tom Endy says, we're checking the top 180 degrees.
Right. We're checking in 3 spots. We're not worrying about the bottom because that's drawn into alignment with the bell housing when you mount it.
Right.
So we're taking readings at 0, which we've got right here to this side of the top hole, 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. So we ran through a couple of them, leaving these 2 ear bolts out. And our thoughts on that was that we're not sure what to put in here each time. And when we do, we distort this thing.
Yeah.
So we decided to work with only these bolts. In fact, mostly these, because when we ran it the first time without these bolts up here, we found that the 9 o'clock position was about 24 thousandths out. In other words, we're rising up, so this side is
Yeah.
up. Then, as we came around, we took this reading here, and it was 23 thousandths.
Yeah.
And up here, we set 0 up at the top point.
And we
So-
really would like to be at 6 thousandths.
So that
Max.
meant that this thing, about the pins
Pivot
here,
point.
that's the pivot point, was pulled out. So what we wanted to do was bring the top out. So behind these 2 bolts, we're only working with these. These were left out. So these 2, we took a standard 10,000 shim.
Show one of those shims that we got.
And these are the standard shims that you buy through the catalogs right here.
10
And,
thousandths of an inch.
Yeah, they're 10 thousandths.
Yep.
So we put one behind each one of these, and we got, let's see. Okay, that reading was 0 up here, 12 thousandths here, and only 2 thousandths down here.
Bingo.
So it says this one was up just slightly. So the theory we've got is we've got it pretty close to being within the plane of the crankshaft flange.
and then-
So what we did then is took a feeler gauge and measured under here, and we got about 42 thousand,
About
something like
39 thousandths.
39, 40.
Yeah.
So that's pretty close to 4 of these.
That's
so
right.
we brought 4 of them together here.
And they were a little
and
tight.
when we pushed them in, they were pretty tight. We had to push to get them in. So that tells me that this one is aligned, and when we tighten this up, it's not going to move.
Well,
so
and when we tightened it up, we watched the gauge.
we watched this gauge, and we went a 0.5 thousandths over, but then we bumped it once, and
Yeah.
it was 3 thousandths over.
But it didn't move dramatically.
Yeah, it hardly moved at all.
Now.
So then we took a final reading around here. We zeroed the dial indicator here, came down to the 9 o'clock position, which was 7 out. And when we came around to this guy at 3 o'clock, it's 4 thousandths. So we're almost
Yeah.
exactly,
Where we
you know,
wanna
parallel to this plane.
be. Yeah.
And the indication was if we had a 5,000 shim or something like that, we could maybe put it under each of these to just bring this out a speck. But
Without
we're
torquing the
gonna-
whole thing.
we're going to accept this
Yes.
as being very, very close within what we can do with what we got with, what are they?
80-year-old parts?
These are 1930 engines, so it's
70?
80, Yeah, what is it?
89, almost 90 years. It'll be 90 years
90
in 2020.
years. Yeah. So these are all 90-year-old parts. The engine's done to stock. And now we actually, this clutch housing we found around, is it these two?
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, I think those, is it the
Yeah,
lower?
the lower two, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And Tom and other guys have said the crack is always here, and probably due to a car that's been in a wreck at one time. But Tom said it may be due to trying to lift the engine up without loosening the rear engine mounts to adjust the front engine mount.
Replace the timing gear.
Yeah, to replace the timing gear cover, which you have to move the whole engine up.
What
to
you're
get
doing
it
is
out.
you're torquing the hell out of this poor
Yeah.
cast iron part.
And then they get a hairline crack. But he said he's rebuilt a lot of engines, not worrying about that little hairline crack.
And we have little hairline cracks that you can see on the other side, but you can't see here.
But they don't go out into the housing.
No.
They're only in the boss that's machined
Only
to
in
take
the
the
boss.
heads of these bolts. So we're going to take this off. We've got it logged in as to what we want.
Get it cleaned up a
Sandblast the
little.
inside, clean the whole thing up, put it back on. We'll probably take a final reading then, and then we mount the
bell
flywheel.
Oh, the flywheel,
The
right.
flywheel and the clutch. And this one's gonna get a reworked Model A flywheel with a V8 clutch on it. So there we go. That's our theory on how to do this. We don't worry about these. We get everything set up with these and then come back and shim it up hard so that you don't stress this thing when you torque them down.
Yeah, and it shows in the measurements because we're not torqued side to side.
Yeah.
I mean, you're out side to side, what, 5/1000ths of an inch? 7 and 2?
7 and 4.
7 and 4. So you're out, you're out 3/1000ths of an inch.
Yeah.
So this thing is not torqued at all. So this is a good thing. All right, makes sense.
Okay, finally.